The playoffs are here, and you can predict the action all the way to the finals with FanDuel Predicts. Predict the spread, the total points, and even the game-winning moments that make the playoffs. Sign up and get a $25 bonus with FanDuel Predicts.
Offered by FanDuel Prediction Markets, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant. 18 plus bonus is non-withdrawable and expires 7 days after receipt. Trading derivatives involves significant risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Manage your activity with their consumer protection tools. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel.com/predicts/bonus-offer-terms.
Listen, all you New Yorkers.
Excuse me.
Taxi.
Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Welcome back to Full Court Press. I'm your host, Sean Spicer, here on WABC. Boy, tomorrow is going to be a big day in Virginia. The Supreme Court there hopefully ruling to invalidate this steal by Democrats of 4 congressional seats. To get the inside scoop, I'm excited to be joined by the state party chairman there, Jeff Ryer. Jeff, good to hear from you on this Sunday. Let me just start with that before I start finger pointing. What do you give me the lay of the land? What's going to happen tomorrow in Virginia with respect to the state Supreme Court?
Well, Sean, thank you for having me, and congratulations to your parents for using the correct spelling for your given name. Tomorrow in Virginia, the Supreme Court of Virginia will be hearing at least one and possibly the second case that came out of the Tazewell Circuit Court, which is an injunction on the referendum itself that would effectively invalidate it because of a variety of improprieties, illegalities, and violations of the state constitution that were performed in holding the referendum. And the reason why they're hearing it after, people are like, why did you just run to court after? Actually, we didn't. We sued long before. And the state Supreme Court, in their wisdom, relied on a judgment from 1912, precedent from 1912, that when the legislature sets up an election that is questionable, they will only decide the validity of the election afterwards. So they used a Taft administration period decision that took place in Virginia at a time when, frankly, very few Virginians could vote, to allow millions of Virginians to vote in this election and then make a determination as to whether or not the election itself was valid. Our contention is it was not. The Constitution was violated, clearly. They not only violated their own legislative procedures, but they also violated Virginia law in not having a properly intervening election between the two legislative sessions required to put a constitutional amendment on the ballot. And in addition to that, they passed language that they put before the voters that was laughable in its description of what was actually occurring. The ballot language said that, do you support fairness? And they might as well have asked the voters of Virginia if they wanted an ice cream cone. Sure. It was had no bearing on what it was they were actually doing, which, of course, as we all know, was taking an even state, a purple state, and taking its congressional districts away from almost everybody that disagrees with the Democrats.
Okay, I want to take those backwards for a second.
Sure.
Jeff, you are a longtime political operative, right? Acknowledge, I mean, this is how I've looked at this. You know what? That ballot question was insane. Do you want to restore temporary fairness? BS. I mean, there's nothing temporary about it. I mean, that's the law that every 10 years you have to redistrict, right? And then the idea of fairness, Virginia already has 6-5 Democrats favored in their congressional delegation. It already was fair, right? But just take yourself out for a second. Like, I can admit that the Jets play a good game, even though I'm a Patriots fan, although it's never happened. I could potentially, I guess. But here's my point.
They did in 1967. They played a good one.
That's right. That's right. Do you remember when Joe Namath played?
Yeah.
But here's the point. Yeah. Like, yes, the question was loaded. It was ridiculous. But like, was it illegal? I don't know. I mean, I think that like we can whine about the fact that they played the game better than us. I think it was confusing. I think they did it intentionally, blah, 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 blah. But that's not illegal. That's just them maximizing, right? I mean, like, can we just agree that that's what, or you tell me why I'm wrong? I mean,
no, well, you're wrong, because Virginia statute requires that it be in plain English and be descriptive.
Oh, so that's what I wanted you to get at. So the law says that, right?
Yeah.
So the law says it has to be in plain English.
And it has to be descriptive of what the referendum would do, and it fulfilled neither of those. It didn't tell people that they were going to lose 6 to 5 maps, and then the state electoral board, which naturally right now has a Democrat majority, albeit by 1 vote, they never put the prospective maps up at the polling places before voters or mailed them out to them to show them what the consequences of the vote were. None of that.
And
happened.
That's what the law says they have to do?
They didn't do it. Well, they're supposed to give them a description of what it is that they're voting on, and to at least give them some idea of what's happening, which is not what occurred. The only way anybody found out about the maps was if we told them. The only way people found out about what was really happening was that we told them. It's not as if the campaign that was pushing this said, we're stealing 5 seats. Representative. Yeah. No, it didn't say that. No,
4.
It did not say that.
4.
And it did not say that you in rural Virginia will be represented solely by the people of Fairfax County.
Right. Northern Virginia will now represent Southern Virginia.
Northern Virginia will represent almost all of Virginia the way they drew the map.
So let's
it's crazy if you look at it.
Okay, so like I want to take this in pieces. So that's a violation of the law. Second violation of the law is how they did it, right? So correct me if I'm wrong again, which by the way, just remember it's my show. But the way the law says is it says that there has to be a meeting of the General Assembly, a vote in the General Assembly, a preceding election, and then another vote. And what they did was they got cute by half, which is they passed it. And then they they did it in a special section after we in Virginia, myself included, already started voting in the 2025 elections. And then they came right back in 2026 and did it. And so your argument would be that the spirit of the law was not met.
It's not just the spirit of the law, the letter of the law wasn't met, because the letter of the law requires, and this is part of the intervening election process, the letter of the law requires that when you pass a constitutional amendment in the first year, which is what they did in late 2025, it has to be posted that it has been passed by clerks of circuit court 90 days before the election occurs. Well, they didn't do that. They didn't do anything close to it. And that's been on the books since 1971 and never repealed. In fact, it has been reaffirmed by the legislature since then. They didn't do that. And that's so the Virginians know, hey, there may be a constitutional amendment coming next year. This might affect your vote this year as far as who you want to vote for. They didn't do that. They didn't. Okay. And also, as you mentioned, they held their special session, I believe, appropriately enough, on Halloween, and the election had at that point already been going on for about 40 days, because we no longer have election day in Virginia. We have election month and a half. Early voting starts 46 days. Before the election actually occurs. Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
All right. Violation number 3 is that the Virginia Constitution says that districts have to be compact. So this would be the third violation, correct?
Right. Now, that is in a separate case. That is a case that's still before the Richmond Circuit that we argued a week ago Monday. Was when they heard it. So that has not been bumped up to the Supreme Court yet. We expect it will be. The districts, you would really have to do a stretch to describe these as anything but compact, as anyone would know.
No, it's the most gerrymandered state in the country now.
Yes, it is. Virginia, the people of California and Illinois can now take solace in the fact that they're number 2 and 3 on the most gerrymandered list. We're number 1. What a distinction for the Commonwealth.
Yeah, congrats, Virginia.
Yeah, way to go. So they're not at all compact. Though that case was heard in Richmond Circuit. There were extensive arguments a week ago Friday. we'll see how that one develops. The judge hasn't ruled in that as of yet. We expect he will sometime soon.
Okay, so in the Chairman Ryer, up into the lead up of this, you guys in Virginia made these arguments. The Supreme Court had a chance to address some of the concerns and they punted. They literally the weaselest thing they could have done, which is, hey, we're going to let Virginia spend money. We're going to make people go vote, and then we'll decide, right? That to me was a huge judicial tell, which was these guys are wusses and they don't want to rule.
Yeah. Well, I think they were optimistic, more optimistic, I'm afraid, than a lot of other observers were in our ability to stop a yes vote on it. So I think that has.
Wait, you think that they thought that it might actually? I'm just want to make sure I'm hearing you. You think that in some way, shape, or form, they thought that the no vote would prevail?
Yes, I do. And the reason why is then they would be off the hook. And, they, you never know exactly what their thinking is, but making a decision as a court to punt something that's clearly unconstitutional and violates parts of the Virginia Code as well, punting it until afterwards in the hope that it wouldn't appear again, that it would be moot. Would
but now they have to undo we've spent probably like $100 million and everyone spent time going to vote. I think it's probably harder. I mean, one of the things that I've said to people, and again, I want your take on this because you're the chairman of the Republican Party in Virginia, is these justices of the Supreme Court have to get reappointed by the legislature, which is run by Democrats, and not just Democrats. Louise Lucas and Don Scott are far left progressive nut jobs. And I think that these guys are trying to curry favor to get reappointed to their seats.
I think that's entirely possible. And I do think that the problem for the Supreme Court is not just that the law and the code and the Constitution violations have occurred. The other problem is the election was close. I think that makes it very, very difficult for them. I think they really are on the spot. The question is, will they, since Virginia Supreme Court justices serve terms and do have to be appointed by the legislature, will they follow the Constitution and the law, or will they allow the Democrats to do this, which would set one heck of a precedent for the future?
And what's the makeup of this court? What is how many members are on it, and how many were appointed by Republicans versus Democrats?
There's 7, and 3 were appointed by Republicans, 2 were appointed by Democrat majorities, and 2, and I hope I'm getting this right, and 2 were appointed by split chambers. In other words, had to be agreed upon by the Democrats and the Republicans in order to get them on. So there really isn't any telling, depending on how long it is they wish to serve.
Yeah. I mean, I think the irony
is to have unanimous decisions.
Really?
Yeah,
I mean, to me, look, really I get, like, I'm all in on the politics, right? I mean, like, I've said this before, like, at least Gavin Newsom was honest in California. He said, hey, Texas is doing it, we're going to do it too, right? But Abigail Spanberger lied to the voters of Virginia, and so did Barack Obama. They both are anti-gerrymandering. But to me, I don't think you have to have watched more than one episode of Law and Order to know that that all of the reasons that you and I just discussed are contradictory to the law and the Constitution of Virginia.
Right. Absolutely. They are.
So if I had your money, if I had Chairman Jeff Ryer money, all of it, what should I mean, are you saying, hey, this is a coin flip going into Monday, or we feel good, or what is Jeff Ryer, the chairman, telling folks in Virginia? Say your prayers, or what?
Our lawyers feel good. I'm in the coin flip category. Say your prayers. Just because we are expecting our jurors to do their jobs, which in most circumstances I think would be something you would expect. But in this particular circumstance, we need to be concerned because their jobs depend on the kindness of what they perceive will be Democrat majorities for a while, and I'm sure that's where their thoughts are. And as you can tell from this legislative session, the Democrats have not been bashful about enacting what it is they want to enact.
Chairman, last thing I want to ask you: is it normal to expect the court to rule on Monday, or are they hearing more stuff? Or like, what is it that we expect by the end of day on Monday? Should we have an answer?
I don't know that we'll have one by the end of day on Monday, but I certainly expect that we will have one by the end of the month. The main reason being that the first day for candidates to turn in signatures for the primary that the Democrats have scheduled for August the 4th is Friday, May 1st.
Okay. All right.
So,
Republican Party of Virginia Chairman Jeff Ryer, we'll double down on our prayers here, but I wish you the best of luck on Monday, and hopefully these guys actually look at the law and recognize what they've done, because this is and unfortunately we didn't have enough time to get into the finger pointing, because boy, are there a lot of people that I think are sitting back realizing that they could have helped fund some. This was the cheapest political date ever that they screwed up on. So I thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much. Take care.
You bet.
Bye-bye.